if you want to read something from Stephen King but you don't like anything supernatural, or you don't want horror, you want a thriller, this is definitely it. You should totally check it out. Well, hello readers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am really excited because I'm going to be reviewing Mr. Mercedes, which is, Stephen King is one of my absolutely favorite writers, so I'm super excited about this. Let's get started with why I read this book. I decided to go ahead and pick this book up because I saw an interview with Stephen King where he was talking about this. And he actually, because he got inspiration from a real case where a woman drove her car into a McDonald's, killing people, It was awful. I think it was in the news, and Stephen King got this idea of this detective, which is called Bill Hodge. And, just before he retires, there's this case of a guy. I'm now talking about the fictional, in the book. He got the idea from that, but then I'm talking about the book now, the non-real stuff. So he creates this character, which is a detective. He's about to retire when something terrible has happened. A madman in a stolen Mercedes-Benz decides to go right into a bunch of people who were in a fair seeking for a job. He kills 8 of them, and one of them is a baby. So it's bad. I think there were a ton of other people obviously injured. Some of them were paralyzed. It was awful. And we are opening with the detective sitting in his living room with his father pistol. He's already retired. They couldn't solve the case. They had nothing to go on, no clues, no nothing. And I have a little bit of fascination, not really with the psychopaths or the serial killers, but mostly with the FBI and the detectives and the people that catch them, all of the stuff that they do, and all of the things that, all of the techniques, all of the psychological, ways that they have to pursue in order to catch these people. That is, I think, absolutely fascinating. So I've read a little bit about it. Also, I've seen a lot of documentaries and things like that. So I do know that a lot of the time, if you don't have nothing to go on, if there are no clues, you have to wait for that person to commit another crime, and then that way it is the way that they catch them then. But this killer decides, you know what, I'm not gonna do it again, and that way they will never be able to catch up with me. They will never know who did it, and I will never go to prison, basically. So we open up with Hodge, this retired detective, and he's in his living room with his father's pistol, contemplating suicide. I think this is a common thing among retired people in the forest. This guy is divorced. He has a daughter, but they do not speak. So he's all alone there in his house, basically just contemplating suicide, when a letter in the mail comes, and it's from Mr. Mercedes, the killer, telling him, you're never going to catch me, just basically taunting him, and sending him a username for a website called, I think, Blue Umbrella or something like that, hence the umbrellas on the covers of the book. Also, another of his signatures is to stick a happy face in the letters. So if you've seen that also in the covers of the books, that's why. So yes, and then obviously the ideal thing to do here is for him to get that letter into his old partners, the detectives that are still working, but he doesn't. He decides to keep the letter and start investigating, which is kind of ironic for the killer, because with this he's trying to push Hodge to commit suicide, and the only thing that he does with this is to give him purpose to keep on investigating and doing something. He finds, he goes to talk to the lady who the killer stole the Mercedes-Benz from, and we get flashbacks from the past when he's investigating this without any results, and the present when he's investigating the lady whose car was stolen from committed suicide afterwards, and we do find out that it was the killer's doing. And I think that this killer is pretty much a standard psychopath. It's a really good psychological thriller. We are following both. I was really excited because I didn't know that we were also going to be reading from the perspective of the psychopath or of the murderer, the killer, whatever you want to call him. I do think he's a little bit of psycho. But we are following the two perspectives, which is what is really interesting about this book is that, and also the game of them. They start playing this game. He obviously, the detective is trying to catch him, and he is trying to make him commit suicide and sort of taunting him. So we follow this basically psychological game, and I think that is so well done, and that is the interesting part of this book. So if you haven't read them, go ahead and read them, because I'm gonna start talking about spoilers. So, okay, we obviously find out, like I was saying, it's a really, I think, stereotypical psychopath. He lives in his mother's basement, basically. He has this weird relationship with his mother. I do think that something like that is sort of important, because a lot of the time, these sort of serial killers or psychopaths are really sex-driven. So I guess Stephen King wanted to put that in the book to make it more realistic, the way that things actually work in an investigation, because that is something that they're, I think, also looking for. Why this person did it? Was it like a sexual thing? Was it a moral thing? Etc., etc., etc. Like an altruistic reason. So I think Stephen King did a really well work in researching and managing to create this really, I guess you can say stereotypical psychopath, but also it felt so realistic. And I think this is the part where you get the goosebumps, you know. He's obviously really smart. For sure got some like vibes of a ton of serial killers that I've read about. Yes, I mean, all of the traits are there, and it is definitely an interesting read if you like that. Again, I'm not into the psychopaths, I'm more into the detectives and the work they do to get them. So this was, I think, a great book if you want to see both of the perspectives. I think the part that was really was that he was just selling the ice creams. You know, when he was selling the ice cream and he was thinking of, oh, I could just poison everyone and everyone would be dying. And the way that he describes it, I think those things were really interesting too, because you were really getting into the mind of him. And I did thought that the ending was really miraculous. Like, suddenly everything got solved in an unrealistic way, you know, when they go into the concert. I think everything to the point where they were, where the killer got into the concert in the wheelchair, like that was absolutely brilliant, I think. But after that, when they know where he's going and they're rushing towards the concert, I think that whole part of them stopping him, that was the part that was really unrealistic for me. But everything else was really good. I think the research done in the psychopath was great. When you're reading from both perspectives, it really gives you the chills, but also you're rooting for the characters so much. And it is definitely a page turner. It's a great thriller. If you want to read something from Stephen King but you don't like anything supernatural, or you don't want horror, you want a thriller, this is definitely it. You should totally check it out. Completely recommend it. I would continue with the trilogy. I don't know what is going to happen, because you know, Mr. Mercedes did wakes up and starts talking, and we're like, is he gonna go out? I don't see how it would be possible for him to go out and commit something else, but we will see. I think the most interesting thing about this book is definitely that mind game that both of these characters are going through, the chase, and seeing how they are trying to anticipate the moves, and how the detective is trying to make sure that he goes mad, that he gets angry, to make sure that he makes mistakes along the way. And you start seeing the killer go really insane when he starts reading the messages that the detective sends him. He starts to get angry, and you know what? He's got it. Like, he's gonna make a mistake. He's gonna do something that is gonna get him captured. And at the end, oh, it all works out. I am really excited to continue reading it. The characters I really liked. I am sad that that lady dies, the sister of Trelawney. By the way, every single time that I read that it was Miss Trelawney, I was picturing Trelawney from Harry Potter. And that took me out of the story a little bit and made me want to laugh. But other than that, I think it was really great. I love Stephen King, so maybe I am a little bit biased on this, but I do think that for sure it's an interesting book and definitely a page-turning thriller for sure. Anyway, that is it for today and for my review of Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. If you read this book, please let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would love to check those out. Also, if you want to watch more reviews, make sure you subscribe because I have a ton more coming. And what else? Make sure you like this video if you're interested in seeing more. But most importantly, again, I want to read your comments down below, talking about and discussing more about the book, because I definitely think that we can go into it with so much more depth. And I guess I will see you in my next video. Bye!